Most people know that honeybees make honey, and that's maybe the first thing that they think of. But honeybees are an essential pollinator of our commercial agricultural system. They pollinate more than 110 crop varieties. A lot of people might be familiar with apples, cherries, or almonds, but they also produce and pollinate the seeds that then grow other things. Like, you don't think maybe of bees being responsible for broccoli or carrots or celery, but they pollinate the flowers that produce the seed that the farmers plant. So that ends up being anywhere from $15 to $18 billion annually in the U.S. agriculture.
The importance of pollination in modern agriculture really can't hardly be overestimated. About a third of our diet is dependent on insect-pollinated crops. So this is directly, fruits, nuts, vegetables that you might like to eat, but also indirectly dairy products that come from, cows that are eating alfalfa. Alfalfa seed requires insect pollination. Some people sometimes ask the question of what would our diet be if we did not have honeybees. We would be eating a lot of grains, a lot of wind-pollinated things. We could have very limited numbers of fruits and vegetables and nuts. So I think it would be a very much a more uninteresting diet, even if we could survive on it. The type of agriculture that we largely have is large monocultures. So there's about something like 900,000 acres of almonds down in California. That area supplies 85% of the world's almonds and requires over half of the managed colonies in this country to pollinate. Modern beekeeping, in a way, is also interdependent with this. Most beekeepers now go to almonds because they can get a good bit of money for putting their bees on that single crop. And that money is important in their annual life cycle of being able to make a living and pay their employees and things.
Without these commercial beekeepers providing the bees in the large numbers required to pollinate these huge agricultural crops, then the food supply is then strained, because it's either very expensive to hand pollinate, for example, or the crop yields are reduced, and then there's a shortage of particular crops that then make it more expensive.
Bee forage and the lack of bee forage is another one of the critical areas for bees. So changes in farming practices, wider spread use of herbicides, also the difficulty in some cases of getting into public lands. There have been some policy changes that's made it harder for beekeepers to access public lands where the bees could get forage. Whenever possible, if you can be in a place with a highly diversified pollen sources like natural areas, it's really great, because bees actually require a diverse diet to be as healthy as possible. So when you're putting your bees on a single crop for a month, and if that crop is farmed in a way that there's not weeds, dandelions or other things that the bees can visit, it's actually kind of tough on the bees. It'd be as if we were eating only one thing, like only broccoli or only steak or something like that. I'm often asked, what can I do to help the bees? People are very interested in bees. They're very supportive of bees. There's been a huge explosion in people becoming beekeepers. So if you have that inclination, if you think it's really cool to manage a box of stinging insects to get honey and help them, that's a great idea, and you should do it. I do it. I love it. I would never tell anyone not to do it. As much as there's a great upsurge in people becoming beekeepers, there's a high attrition rate when people realize how difficult it is and what's involved. So the advice often given to people for how you can help the bees is to plant flowers. Do what you can on your little patch of the earth to make a diverse food supply for them. because you'll help not only honeybees, but you'll help all the native pollinators that come out and rely on that. Everyone can do something to help the bees.